Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and watched the alien ships through the main view screen. 3 years had passed since Earth made first contact with the Galactic Coalition. Now his ship was about to dock at their biggest military base near the Centauri Nebula. The Coalition had over 200 different alien species. They had been keeping peace in the galaxy for thousands of years. When they first met humans, they welcomed Earth as a new member. The aliens expected humans to build small patrol ships to help with peacekeeping duties. Nobody expected the Leviathan. Jake's ship was nearly 2 kilometers long. It was the biggest warship humans had ever built. The Coalition had shared some of their basic technology with Earth, but humans had mixed it with their own ideas. The result was something that made alien commanders very nervous. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Coalition base," said Communications Officer Steve Parker. He was a young man from Texas who always stayed calm under pressure. "Put it on screen," Jake replied. The view screen showed a large reptilian alien with green scales and yellow eyes. This was Admiral Zethkar of the Saurian Empire. He was the Coalition's top military leader. "Captain Morrison, welcome to Centauri Base. We are ready to receive your ship for inspection," the alien said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Thank you, Admiral. We're honored to be here," Jake answered. Jake turned to his crew. Chief Engineer Lisa Hayes was checking her tablet, making sure all systems were working perfectly. She was a brilliant woman from California who could fix anything. Tactical Officer Ryan Cooper stood at his station, watching the weapon displays. He was a former Marine who knew more about fighting than most people. "Lisa, are we ready for their inspection?" Jake asked. "All systems are green, Captain. Though, I should warn you, our reactor is putting out energy signatures they've never seen before," Lisa said. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Our fusion reactors are much more powerful than anything the Coalition uses. Their ships run on crystal energy cores that are very safe but not very strong. Our reactors could power their entire base." Jake nodded. He had worried about this. Earth's technology was different from alien technology. Humans had learned to build powerful weapons during their many wars. When they went to space, they simply made bigger versions of the same weapons. The Leviathan slowly moved toward the docking bay. Other alien ships moved out of the way. Jake could see them through the windows. Most Coalition ships were small and elegant, built for exploration and light patrol work. The Leviathan looked like a flying fortress next to them. "Docking complete, Captain," said Navigator Amy Foster. She was a smart young woman from Ohio who could plot courses through the most dangerous parts of space. Within an hour, Admiral Zethkar arrived on the ship with his inspection team. Jake met them in the main hangar bay. The alien admiral was even bigger in person. He stood 8 feet tall and his scales gleamed under the lights. "This is quite a ship, Captain Morrison," the admiral said as he looked around. "Much larger than we expected. We wanted to make sure we could handle any situation," Jake replied. The inspection team included aliens from several different species. There was a tall, thin creature with blue skin from the Andorian Republic. A short, hairy being from the Dwarven clans walked beside a floating jellyfish-like alien from the Ethereal Dominion. They walked through the ship's corridors. The aliens kept stopping to look at things. They seemed worried about the thick armor plating on the walls. They were surprised by the size of the weapon storage areas. But what really concerned them were the energy readings they were getting. "Captain, what type of weapons does your ship carry?" asked the blue-skinned alien. Ryan Cooper stepped forward. "We have particle beam arrays, fusion torpedoes, kinetic bombardment systems, and standard point defense networks." The aliens looked at each other. They started talking in their own languages very quickly. "Is there a problem?" Jake asked. Admiral Zethkar cleared his throat. "Captain, these weapon systems are much more powerful than Coalition standards. Our ships carry light energy beams for disabling enemy vessels. Your weapons appear designed for complete destruction." "We built them for defense," Jake said. "Defense against what?" the admiral asked. Jake thought about how to answer. During Earth's history, humans had fought countless wars. They had learned to build weapons that could destroy cities, level mountains, and wipe out entire armies. When they went to space, they assumed they would need the same level of firepower. We wanted to be prepared for any threat, Jake finally said. The inspection continued. Lisa Hayes showed them the engineering section. The aliens were amazed by the fusion reactors. Their own power systems were much smaller and safer. Human reactors could explode with the force of a small star if something went wrong, but they also provided incredible amounts of energy. In the weapons bay, Ryan Cooper demonstrated the targeting systems. The aliens watched as he showed them how the particle beams could slice through solid metal like butter. The fusion torpedoes were even more impressive. Each one could destroy a small moon. "These are your standard weapons?" asked the hairy alien from the dwarven clans. "Yes, sir. Every human warship carries similar armament," Ryan answered. The aliens stopped talking. They just stared at the weapons displays. Admiral Zethkar pulled Jake aside. "Captain, I must ask you a direct question. How many ships like this does Earth have?" Jake hesitated. 17 more are under construction. We plan to have a fleet of 20 ships within 2 years. The Admiral's yellow eyes got very wide. 20 ships with this level of firepower? That's just the first wave. Earth's shipyards can build much faster once we get going, Jake said. The Admiral looked like he had seen a ghost. He whispered something to his team in his own language. The other aliens started looking very nervous. The inspection ended quickly after that. Admiral Zethkar thanked Jake for his cooperation, but he seemed eager to leave. As the alien team walked back to their shuttle, Jake could hear them talking urgently among themselves. "Captain, I think we might have a problem," Lisa said quietly. Jake watched the alien shuttle fly away. He had a feeling she was right. The Coalition had expected humans to build small patrol boats. Instead, they had brought a ship that could probably defeat their entire fleet. The question was, what would the aliens do about it? 2 days passed after the inspection. Captain Jake Morrison had barely slept. He could tell something was wrong. The Coalition officers were avoiding his crew, and no one would answer his questions about their next assignment. Then the message came. "Captain, we have orders from Fleet Commander Veltara," Steve Parker announced from his communications station. "We're to report to the Kepler system for military exercises." Jake knew about the Kepler system. It was empty space where the Coalition tested new weapons and trained their crews. Old ships and artificial targets floated there, waiting to be destroyed. "Set course for Kepler," Jake ordered. "Amy, get us there as fast as possible." Navigator Amy Foster worked at her console. "Course plotted, Captain. We'll arrive in 6 hours." Jake walked to his ready room and called his senior officers. Chief Engineer Lisa Hayes arrived first, followed by Tactical Officer Ryan Cooper and Lieutenant Commander Pete Collins, who handled weapons testing. "I think this is more than just a training exercise," Jake told them. "They want to see what we can really do." "Are we talking about a full weapons test?" Pete asked. He was an experienced officer from Nevada who had served on 3 different ships. "Probably." "Lisa, make sure all systems are at peak performance. Ryan, I want you to coordinate with Pete on the weapons demonstration. Show them what the Leviathan can do, but keep it professional." "Understood, Captain," Ryan replied. 6 hours later, the Leviathan arrived at the Kepler system. Jake was surprised by what he saw. Dozens of Coalition ships were waiting for them. This was not a normal training exercise. The largest ship belonged to Fleet Commander Veltara of the Nexari. The Nexari were crystalline beings who looked like living glass. Their ships were beautiful but fragile compared to human designs. "Captain Morrison, welcome to Kepler," came the voice of Commander Veltara. Her words sounded like wind chimes in the breeze. "We have prepared a comprehensive evaluation of your vessel's capabilities." Jake looked at Ryan. "Comprehensive evaluation?" Sounded like military talk for, "We want to see how dangerous you really are." "We're ready to begin whenever you are, Commander," Jake replied. The test area was huge. Hundreds of old ships floated in space, along with metal targets, asteroids, and various obstacles. It looked like a graveyard of spaceships. "Your first test will be against unmanned fighter craft," Commander Veltara announced. 36 drone fighters will attack your ship. Please disable them using minimum force. Jake nodded to Pete, who took control of the weapons systems. The drone fighters were small and fast, but they were no match for human technology. Beginning engagement, Pete announced. The Leviathan's point defense systems came online. Dozens of small laser turrets tracked the incoming drones. What happened next surprised everyone. The human weapons fired in perfectly coordinated bursts. Each shot was precise and deadly. Within 30 seconds, all 36 drones were destroyed. Not disabled, completely destroyed. That was minimum force? Commander Veltara asked, her voice showing concern. For us, yes, Pete replied. Our point defense systems are designed to stop incoming missiles and fighter attacks. We can't really dial down the power much more than that. Jake could see the alien ships backing away from the Leviathan. The first test had already shown them something they did not expect. Let's proceed to the next test, Commander Veltara said. Please engage the capital ship targets using your main weapons. Ryan took over the tactical station. Captain, which weapons should I use? Start with particle beams. Let's see how they react to those. The particle beam arrays charged up. The Leviathan had 6 main particle beam cannons, each one capable of cutting through solid metal like it was paper. Ryan selected 3 old Coalition destroyers as targets. Firing particle beams, Ryan announced. The beams shot out from the Leviathan, like spears of pure energy. They hit the target ships and sliced through them completely. The destroyers were cut in half, their metal hulls glowing red-hot from the energy. Silence filled the communication channels. Jake could imagine the alien commanders staring at their screens in shock. Captain Morrison, Commander Veltara's voice was shaking now. Those were military-grade warships. Your weapons cut through their armor like it was not even there. Is that a problem? Jake asked. Our most powerful weapons would have taken several minutes to disable those ships. You destroyed them in seconds. Ryan looked at Jake. Should I show them the fusion torpedoes? Jake thought about it. The fusion torpedoes were their most powerful conventional weapons. Each one could destroy a small city. But the aliens had asked for a full demonstration. Fire 1 torpedo at that asteroid cluster, Jake ordered. Ryan selected a group of large asteroids floating about 50 kilometers away. He loaded a single fusion torpedo and fired. The torpedo streaked through space, leaving a trail of blue light behind it. When it hit the asteroids, the explosion was incredible. A miniature sun appeared for a few seconds, vaporizing the entire asteroid cluster and sending shockwaves through space. The alien ships were pushed backward by the force of the explosion. Several of them had to restart their engines after the electromagnetic pulse from the blast. What in the name of the Ancient Ones was that? Commander Veltara shouted. Dr. Kevin Wright, the ship's science officer, answered from his station. That was a standard fusion torpedo, Commander. We have 300 of them on board. 300? Yes, ma'am. Each one is about 10 times more powerful than the one we just fired, but we dialed down the yield for safety reasons. Jake could hear alien voices talking frantically on the communication channels. They were speaking in their own languages, but he could tell they were very upset. Commander Veltara, are you all right? Jake asked. Captain Morrison, I am ending this exercise immediately. Please power down all weapon systems and return to your previous position. Is everything okay? We haven't even shown you our kinetic bombardment systems yet. No! Commander Veltara's voice was almost a scream. No more demonstrations. This exercise is over. The alien fleet began moving away from the Leviathan very quickly. Jake watched them go, confused by their reaction. Captain, what just happened? Lisa asked. I think we scared them, Jake replied. Ryan was looking at his weapon displays. Captain, we barely used any of our firepower. The particle beams were at 30% power, and that torpedo was our smallest yield setting. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean, if we had fired at full power, we could have destroyed everything in the system, including their ships. Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. He was starting to understand why the aliens were so frightened. Human weapons were not just more powerful than Coalition weapons. They were thousands of times more powerful. Sir, we're getting a priority message from Commander Veltara, Steve announced. Put it through. The crystalline alien appeared on screen. Her normally calm demeanor was gone, replaced by obvious fear. "Captain Morrison, by order of the Galactic Council, you are to return to Centauri Base immediately. Do not use any weapons during your transit. A full inquiry will be conducted regarding your ship's capabilities." "Commander, I don't understand. We followed your instructions exactly. Captain, your ship has just demonstrated the ability to destroy entire star systems. This is not a capability the Coalition can allow in our space." The transmission ended, leaving Jake and his crew alone, with their thoughts. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I think we're in serious trouble." Jake looked at the empty space where the asteroid field used to be. A single human torpedo had wiped it out completely. He was beginning to realize that maybe Earth had built something too powerful for the peaceful galaxy they had joined. The question was, what would happen next? The emergency session of the Galactic Council was held on Harmony Prime, the largest neutral station in Coalition space. Captain Jake Morrison had never seen so many different alien species in one place. Thousands of representatives from across the galaxy had come to discuss what they were calling the human problem. Jake sat at a small table with his diplomatic officer, Commander Helen Brooks, and Earth's ambassador to the Coalition, Frank Davis. Helen was a smart woman from New York who had studied alien cultures for years. Ambassador Davis was an older man who had worked hard to bring humanity into the galactic community. Around them, the massive council chamber buzzed with worried voices. Jake could see representatives from every major species. The reptilian saurians whispered among themselves. The crystalline Nexari glowed with nervous energy. The insect-like Zizaks clicked their mandibles in agitation. "Captain Morrison," Ambassador Davis said quietly, "I want you to know that Earth supports you completely. But I have to be honest. This is the worst crisis we've faced since first contact." "All we did was follow their instructions," Jake replied. "They asked for a weapons demonstration and we gave them one." "That's the problem," Helen said. "What you showed them was so far beyond their understanding that they think we're a threat to the entire galaxy." The council session began when Prime Minister Thel Nor took the podium. She was ancient, even by alien standards, and represented the Celestial Order, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Her voice carried the weight of thousands of years of experience. "We are here today to discuss the unprecedented situation created by humanity's entrance into Coalition space," she announced. "In 10,000 years of galactic peace, we have never faced a threat like this." Jake felt his anger rising. "Threat? We came here seeking friendship." Ambassador Davis put a hand on his arm. "Let them speak first. We'll get our chance." A tall, glowing being from the Vorthon Collective stepped forward. The Vorthons were pure energy creatures who rarely involved themselves in physical matters. When they spoke, everyone listened. The human warship demonstrated capabilities that violate every principle of civilized warfare, the Vorthon said. Their weapons can destroy entire worlds. Their technology could end galactic civilization as we know it. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Jake looked around and saw fear in every alien face. These were species that had lived in peace for millennia. War was something they read about in history books, not something they prepared for. Hive Queen, Zakth of the insectoid species, stood up. Her voice was like hundreds of bugs buzzing at once. "My people have calculated the destructive potential of human technology. A single human warship could defeat the combined fleets of 50 coalition worlds." "That's not true," Jake said, standing up. "Captain Morrison," Prime Minister Thel Nor said, "you will have your chance to speak. Please be seated." Jake sat down, but he was furious. These aliens were talking about humanity like they were monsters. Admiral Zethkar of the Saurians presented a detailed report of the weapons test. He showed recordings of the particle beam slicing through coalition warships and the fusion torpedo destroying the asteroid field. The humans claimed these were minimum power settings. The Admiral said, "If this is true, then their full capabilities are beyond our comprehension. They could destroy star systems, wipe out entire civilizations." A representative from the Aquatic Federation spoke next. "My people live on water worlds throughout the galaxy. The humans' kinetic bombardment systems could boil our oceans in minutes. We demand protection from this threat. More and more species stood up to voice their concerns. The dwarven clans worried about their mining colonies. The ethereal dominion feared for their research stations. Everyone seemed terrified of what humanity might do. Finally, Prime Minister Thelnor called for the human response. Ambassador Davis stood up first. "Honored representatives," he began, "humanity has never shown any aggressive intentions toward the coalition. We came here seeking friendship and mutual cooperation. Our ships were built for defense, not conquest." "Defense against what?" asked a small, furry creature from the Rodentian Confederacy. "What enemy could possibly require such massive weapons?" Helen Brooks answered. "Humanity has a long history of conflict. We learned to build powerful weapons to protect ourselves. When we went to space, we simply scaled up our technology." "But why?" asked the Vorthan representative. "The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. What made you think you needed such weapons?" Jake finally got permission to speak. He stood up and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces, staring at him. "Because we didn't know you existed," he said simply. "For thousands of years, humans thought we were alone in the universe. We built these weapons to fight each other and to defend against unknown threats. When we finally met, we brought the only ships we had. Then build new ships," suggested Hive Queen Zakth. "Ships that meet coalition standards." "Our shipyards are already building 17 more vessels like the Leviathan," Jake replied. "Earth has committed enormous resources to our space program. We can't just start over." The chamber erupted in frightened voices. 17 more ships like the Leviathan meant humanity would have enough firepower to challenge the entire coalition. "This is exactly what we feared," Admiral Zethkar said. "The humans are building a fleet of superweapons." "They're not superweapons," Jake protested. "They're just regular warships by human standards." "That's what makes this so terrifying," Prime Minister Thelnor said. "What you consider normal, we consider world-ending." A representative from the Pacifist Alliance stood up. "We propose a simple solution. Humanity must modify their ships to meet coalition weapon standards, remove the dangerous weapons, install power limiters, and submit to regular inspections." Jake felt his heart sink. "That would leave us defenseless. Our ships would be nothing more than passenger liners. Better that than allowing weapons of mass destruction to roam free in coalition space," the pacifist replied. Ambassador Davis tried to negotiate. "Surely we can reach a compromise. Humanity has contributed valuable research and technology to the coalition. Our scientists have helped advance medical knowledge and engineering techniques. None of that matters if their ships can destroy us all," said the ethereal representative. The debate continued for hours. Every time the humans tried to explain their position, the aliens responded with more fear and demands for restrictions. Jake realized that no amount of talking would convince them. They had seen what human weapons could do, and they were terrified. Dr. Kevin Wright, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. "If I may address the council," he said, "the weapons on our ship represent decades of human scientific achievement. They incorporate technologies that could benefit all coalition species if properly shared." "We don't want your weapon technology," Admiral Zethkar snapped. "We want it contained." "But what if you need it someday?" Jake asked. "What if the galaxy faces a threat that your peaceful weapons can't handle?" "There are no such threats, Prime," Minister Thelnor replied. "The galaxy is at peace." "Peace doesn't last forever," Jake said. "Humans learned that the hard way." The chamber fell silent. Jake's words carried a weight that made everyone uncomfortable. These aliens had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten what war really meant. Prime Minister Thelnor called for a recess. As the alien representatives filed out of the chamber, Jake sat down heavily in his chair. "How do you think it's going?" he asked Ambassador Davis. The older man shook his head sadly. "Not well, Captain. I think they've already made up their minds." Helen Brooks was reading reports on her tablet. "Captain, I'm getting messages from Earth. There are protests in several major cities. People are angry that humanity is being treated like criminals." Jake looked around the empty chamber. Somewhere out there, his crew was waiting for him on the Leviathan. They had followed orders, done their duty, and now they were being branded as threats to galactic civilization. "What happens if they ban us from Coalition space?" Jake asked. "Then we go home," Ambassador Davis replied, "and humanity becomes isolated from the galactic community." "Maybe that's for the best," Jake said quietly. "Maybe we're just too different from them." But even as he said it, Jake knew that isolation wasn't the answer. Humanity belonged among the stars, with or without the Coalition's approval. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity had to offer. The vote took 3 days. Captain Jake Morrison spent those days walking the corridors of Harmony Prime, watching alien delegates whisper and argue about humanity's fate. He had never felt so alone, even with his crew and Earth's representatives beside him. On the final day, Prime Minister Thelnor called the council back to order. The ancient being looked tired, as if the weight of the decision had aged her even more. "The Galactic Council has reached its decision regarding human warships in Coalition space," she announced. Her voice echoed through the massive chamber. Jake sat between Ambassador Davis and Commander Helen Brooks. His hands were clenched so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. By a vote of 847 in favor, 23 against, with 156 abstentions, the Council hereby bans all human warships from participating in galactic military operations. The words hit Jake like a physical blow. Around the chamber, many alien representatives looked relieved. Others seemed uncomfortable with the decision, but they had voted anyway. Prime Minister Thelnor continued reading the formal resolution. "Furthermore, human vessels are prohibited from entering Coalition space while armed with their current weapon systems. All human warships must remove kinetic bombardment systems, reduce fusion torpedo yields by 95%, install Coalition-approved power limiters, and submit to monthly inspections." "This is insane," Jake whispered. Ambassador Davis placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let her finish. Any human vessel found in violation of these restrictions will be impounded immediately, and its crew detained until proper modifications are completed. This resolution takes effect in 30 days. Prime Minister Thelnor looked directly at Jake. "Captain Morrison, the Council recognizes that these restrictions are severe. However, the safety of billions of galactic citizens must come first." Jake stood up slowly. The entire chamber fell silent, waiting to hear his response. "Prime Minister, with respect, these restrictions would leave my ship defenseless. You're asking us to remove every weapon that makes us effective." "We are asking you to remove weapons that could destroy star systems," she replied. "And what happens when you need those weapons?" Jake asked. "What happens when the galaxy faces a threat that your peaceful technology can't handle?" "There are no such threats, Captain. The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. Jake looked around the chamber at all the alien faces. They seemed so confident in their peaceful world, so sure that nothing could threaten them. "With your permission, I need to contact Earth Command," Jake said. "You have 1 hour to respond to this resolution," Prime Minister Thelnor replied. Jake left the chamber with his team and went to the human embassy section of the station. Ambassador Davis had a secure communication room where they could talk to Earth without alien interference. The holographic image of Admiral Patricia Lee appeared on the screen. She was the head of Human Space Forces, a tough woman who had served in Earth's military for 30 years. "Captain Morrison, I've been following the proceedings. What's your assessment?" "They're terrified of us, Admiral. They want us to strip our ships down to passenger liners." "That's not going to happen," Admiral Lee said firmly. "President Johnson has been very clear on this matter. We will not disarm our ships to satisfy alien fears." Ambassador Davis leaned forward. "Admiral, if we refuse, they'll ban us from Coalition space entirely. Earth will be isolated from the galactic community. Frank, I understand your concerns, but we can't compromise our security. These ships were built to protect humanity. We won't make them helpless." Jake felt torn between his duty to Earth and his desire to maintain peaceful relations with the Coalition. "What are my orders, Admiral?" "Return to Earth immediately. Do not comply with any of their weapon restrictions. We'll deal with the diplomatic consequences later. The communication ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He had to go back to the council and deliver Earth's response. When he returned to the chamber, Prime Minister Thelnor was waiting. Captain Morrison. What is Earth's decision? Jake took a deep breath. Earth respectfully declines to modify our warships according to coalition specifications. We cannot compromise our security by removing our defensive capabilities. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Many aliens seemed shocked that humanity would refuse their demands. This means you choose isolation over cooperation, Prime Minister Thelnor said sadly. We choose to remain strong enough to protect ourselves and our allies, Jake replied. Admiral Zethkar stood up from his seat. Then you are no longer welcome in coalition space. Leave immediately. Jake nodded. We'll depart within the hour. He walked toward the exit. Something unexpected happened. 3 alien representatives stood up and followed him out of the chamber. In the corridor, Jake was surprised to see who had followed him. There was Commander Nax from the Proxima colonies, General Korvac from the Valyrian clans, and Trade Minister Vex from the Centauri Trade Union. Captain Morrison, Commander Nax said, we need to talk. They found a quiet conference room away from the main chambers. Commander Nax was a humanoid alien who looked very similar to humans, just with slightly blue skin. Captain, my people voted against the ban, she said. We think the coalition made a mistake. General Korvac was a large warrior-like alien with multiple arms and fierce eyes. The Valyrian clans understand the value of strength. Your weapons may be powerful, but you have shown no aggression. The Centauri Trade Union depends on frontier commerce, added Trade Minister Vex, who looked like a tall, thin lizard. We deal with pirates and raiders every day. Coalition peacekeepers can't protect us. Jake was surprised. What are you saying? We're saying that if the coalition doesn't want human protection, maybe we can arrange something privately, Commander, Nax replied. Are you talking about leaving the coalition? Jake asked. We're talking about forming new alliances, General Korvac said. The coalition has become weak and scared. They've forgotten that sometimes peace requires strength. Trade Minister Vex handed Jake a small device. This contains contact information for our governments. If Earth is interested in mutual defense agreements, we would be honored to discuss it. Jake pocketed the device. I'll pass this along to Earth Command. Captain, Commander Nax said, the galaxy is changing. The coalition's decision today may have consequences they don't expect. An hour later, Jake was back on the Leviathan with his crew. Communications Officer Steve Parker was preparing for departure when he received an unusual message. Captain, we're getting priority signals from several coalition worlds. The frontier colonies are requesting immediate assistance. There are reports of unknown raiders attacking mining stations. Unknown raiders? Jake asked. Yes, sir. Ships that don't match any coalition database. They're attacking civilian targets and disappearing before peacekeepers can respond. Jake looked at the star charts. The attacks were happening in systems near coalition borders, far from the main military bases. Captain, Tactical Officer Ryan, Cooper said, if the coalition military can't handle these raiders, thousands of civilians could be killed. Jake thought about the 3 alien representatives who had approached him. They had warned that the galaxy was changing. Maybe they were right. Sir, we also have a message from Earth Command, Steve announced. Admiral Lee wants us to return, home immediately. No detours, no delays. Jake stared at the reports of the raider attacks. Somewhere out there, innocent beings were dying while the coalition debated politics. His ship had the power to help them, but Earth had ordered him home. Captain, what are your orders? Asked Navigator Amy Foster. Jake made a decision that would change everything. Plot a course for the Sirius system. I want to investigate these raider attacks. Sir, that's directly against orders from Earth Command, Chief Engineer Lisa Hayes pointed out. I know, Jake replied. But sometimes doing the right thing means disobeying orders. The Leviathan changed course, heading toward danger instead of safety. Jake knew he was risking his career and possibly his ship, but he couldn't ignore the calls for help. Behind them, the Coalition continued their debates about human weapons being too dangerous for their peaceful galaxy. Soon they would learn that some threats required exactly the kind of power they had just banned. The Leviathan dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sirius system. Captain Jake Morrison immediately knew something was very wrong. The Coalition research station that should have been orbiting the fourth planet was dark and silent. "Captain, I'm detecting debris fields," reported navigator Amy Foster. "Multiple ships have been destroyed here." "Any survivors?" Jake asked. Communications officer Steve Parker worked frantically at his station. "I'm picking up a weak distress signal from the research station. They're still alive, but barely." On the main view screen, Jake could see the station. It was a beautiful crystalline structure built by the Nexari, designed to study stellar phenomena. Now it was damaged and drifting, with whole sections torn away. "Captain, I'm detecting 15 unknown ships moving toward the station." "Tactical," Officer Ryan Cooper announced. "They don't match any Coalition designs in our database." Jake studied the enemy vessels on his screen. They were dark, angular ships that looked like they were built for war. Unlike Coalition vessels, which were elegant and peaceful, these ships bristled with weapons. "Sir, the raiders are firing on the station," Ryan reported. "The station's shields are failing." Jake didn't hesitate. "Battle stations. All hands to combat positions." Alarms rang throughout the Leviathan as the crew prepared for their first real battle. Chief Engineer Lisa Hayes reported from engineering that all systems were ready. Dr. Kevin Wright moved to the science station to coordinate sensors and targeting. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead raider ship," Steve announced. "Put it on screen." The view screen showed a creature that Jake had never seen before. It looked like a cross between a spider and a machine with metal legs and glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was harsh and grating. "Human vessel, you will leave this system immediately. This research station belongs to the Devourers. Now." "I don't think so," Jake replied. "Release the station and its personnel, and we'll let you leave." The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. "One ship against 15? You are either very brave or very stupid. Let's find out which," Jake said, then cut the transmission. He turned to his crew. "Ryan, target their lead ship with particle beams. Pete, prepare fusion torpedoes. Lisa, give me full power to weapons and shields." Lieutenant Commander Pete Collins took control of the torpedo systems. "Captain, should I use full yield?" Jake thought about the Coalition's fears of human weapons. Then he looked at the damaged research station and the innocent scientists inside. "Full yield," he ordered. The battle began with the raiders firing on the Leviathan. Their weapons were powerful, but they barely scratched the human ship's shields. Jake realized that these raiders had been successful against Coalition vessels because Coalition weapons were weak by human standards. "Return fire," Jake commanded. The Leviathan's particle beams lanced out across space. The first raider ship simply vanished in a burst of energy. The second ship tried to evade, but the human targeting systems were too fast and accurate. "Direct. Hit on raider ship number 2, Ryan reported. "Target destroyed." The remaining 13 raider ships spread out, trying to surround the Leviathan. They fired everything they had, filling space with energy beams and projectiles, but the human ship's shields held easily. "Pete, fire torpedoes," Jake ordered. 4 fusion torpedoes streaked away from the Leviathan. Each one found its target with devastating results. 4 more raider ships disappeared in miniature suns of nuclear fire. The remaining raiders seemed to panic. They had probably never faced anything that could destroy their ships so easily. "Captain, the raiders are trying to retreat," Amy reported. "Don't let them escape. We need to find out who they are and where they came from." The Leviathan pursued the fleeing raiders with deadly efficiency. Its advanced engines easily caught up to the enemy ships. One by one, the human weapons picked them off until only 2 remained. "Disable those last 2 ships," Jake ordered. "I want prisoners." Ryan adjusted his targeting systems. The particle beams fired at reduced power, destroying the raiders' engines but leaving their hulls intact. "Both ships disabled, Captain. They're drifting." The entire battle had lasted less than 20 minutes. 15 enemy ships had been destroyed, or disabled by a single human vessel. Jake realized this was exactly what the Coalition had been afraid of. Steve, contact the research station. Let them know they're safe. The response came immediately. Human vessel, this is Dr. Veltara of the Sirius Research Station. We cannot thank you enough. Those raiders have been attacking Coalition facilities for weeks. Our peacekeepers couldn't stop them. How many casualties? Jake asked. 43 researchers were killed in the initial attack. Without your intervention, we all would have died. Jake felt the weight of those words. 43 beings had died because the Coalition's peaceful weapons couldn't protect them. Dr. Veltara, we're going to board the disabled raider ships. We need to find out who these devourers are. An hour later, Security Chief Tony Richards led a boarding party to the captured ships. What they found was disturbing. The raiders were not a natural species, but cybernetic creatures that seemed to be part machine, part living tissue. Captain, these things are definitely not from Coalition space, Tony reported. Their technology is completely unknown. And, sir, we found star charts in their computer systems. They show dozens of Coalition worlds marked for attack. Jake studied the data that Tony had recovered. The Devourers had been planning a massive invasion of Coalition space. Their strategy was simple: attack isolated research stations and colonies, steal technology and resources, then disappear before help could arrive. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command, Steve announced. Admiral Patricia Lee appeared on the screen, and she did not look happy. Captain Morrison, you were ordered to return to Earth immediately. Instead, you're fighting battles in Coalition space. Admiral, we discovered an invasion force attacking civilian targets. We couldn't ignore it. That's not your decision to. Captain, you're in direct violation of orders. Before Jake could respond, another transmission came through. It was from the Coalition Council on Harmony Prime. Prime Minister Thel Noor appeared alongside Admiral Lee on a split screen. Captain Morrison, we have received reports of your engagement with unknown hostiles. Is it true that you defeated 15 enemy vessels single-handedly? Yes, Prime Minister. We also rescued the Sirius Research Station and captured intelligence about planned attacks on Coalition worlds. The ancient alien leader was quiet for a long moment. Captain, the Council owes you an apology. We may have been too hasty in our judgment, Admiral Lee interrupted. Prime Minister Captain Morrison was acting without authority from Earth Command. Admiral, your captain just saved thousands of lives, Prime Minister Thel Noor replied. Perhaps both of our governments need to reconsider our positions. Over the next few days, everything changed. The intelligence recovered from the Devourers revealed a massive threat that the Coalition had never imagined. The cybernetic raiders had been preparing to invade from beyond the galactic rim, where no Coalition ship had ever traveled. 3 Coalition species, the Proxima colonies, the Valerian clans, and the Centauri Trade Union, formally requested to withdraw from the Coalition and form a mutual defense pact with humanity. They had seen what human weapons could do against real threats. The Coalition Council held another emergency session. This time, instead of fearing human weapons, they were asking for human protection. Captain Morrison, Prime Minister Thel Noor, said during the final session, the Council has voted to rescind the ban on human warships. We would be honored if humanity would consider joint operations against this new threat. Jake stood before the same council that had condemned him just days before. Prime Minister, humanity is willing to help defend the galaxy, but we won't disarm our ships or limit our capabilities. We understand, Captain. We've learned that sometimes peace requires strength. As the Leviathan headed back to Earth, Jake reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity had been banned from galactic warfare because their weapons were too powerful. But when a real threat appeared, those same weapons had saved thousands of lives. Chief Engineer Lisa Hayes joined him on the bridge. Captain, do you think the Coalition will really accept us now? Some will, Jake replied. Others will always fear what we represent. But that's okay. The galaxy is big enough for all of us. Communications Officer Steve Parker announced an incoming message from Earth. Captain, President Johnson wants to speak with you personally. Jake smiled. He had disobeyed direct orders, fought an unauthorized battle, and probably started a diplomatic revolution. It was going to be an interesting conversation. But as he looked at the stars ahead, Jake knew that humanity had found its place in the galaxy. They might be too powerful for some, but they were exactly powerful enough when it mattered most. The Leviathan continued on its journey home, no longer banned from galactic warfare, but instead recognized as the guardian that the galaxy needed.